agree that healthcare in this country is in critical condition. As Washington debates the best treatment for that, the Catholic Health Association says that attention needs to be paid to pain management, along with the psychological, social, and spiritual needs of patients with serious illness.
Hospital chaplains see these patients up close each and every day. We want to introduce you now to 3 people caring for the spiritual needs of terminally ill patients right here in New York City.
My name is Jane Mather, and my story starts from the time I was very young and lost a younger brother to childhood illness. I think because I grew up with the evidence very up close and personal of death in my family, I've never been afraid of it. I saw from the time I was little that the survivors survive, and that the people who die are still so much a part of the fabric of what's left behind, that it's not just, they don't just disappear, they're still there.
A typical day as Director of Chaplaincy Services starts between 6:30 and 7 a.m. Jane receives referrals from nurses, social workers, and doctors for sick and dying patients and their families. We asked Jane about her journey to Sloan.
What brought me to Memorial Sloan Kettering was the interest that I had in cancer care. Their inclusion of pastoral care was so profoundly exciting to me, because pastoral care is often not recognized as important. Many times sat at the bedside of a dying patient and just been there and held the hand. I think of myself as an usher. We usher people from this world into the next, and that takes tremendous patience and slowing down and not having any other agenda but just the presence, to be in the presence of what I think is a very holy time.
The reward looks like the reality of grace. It's the grace or the blessing of the moment where you see the patient is at peace. And to me, the reward is my own peace in knowing that I did what I feel God has called me to do. Maybe there is the presence of cancer of the bone, but there's healing in knowing that people care.
Sister Margaret Ottinger is Director of Pastoral Care at Hospital for Special Surgery. She, like Jane Mather, heads a team of several chaplains who are specially trained in end-of-life practices.
We have our own nurses syllabus. We have our own chaplains traditions of knowing what to do, or what traditions are a part of Hinduism, of Muslims, of Roman Catholics, of Protestants, when they are sick, when they are injured, when they are dying.
Lutheran Reverend George Hanzo has been a chaplain for 25 years. He now heads healthcare chaplaincy in New York City.
I worked in memorial pediatrics for almost 25 years. Worked with families who children were diagnosed with cancer, died from cancer, relapsed with cancer. But the challenge, I think, is the focus and the presence that you have to do this job well. The intensity of the contact has to be total. It's about reducing suffering, and that's a noble calling, I think. And I feel blessed to be lucky enough to have dropped into a place where I can help people suffer less.
For those who have a sort of faith that said, well, if I say my prayers, I give money to church and to charity, that somehow God will protect me from this, and then they find themselves in the midst of a cancer diagnosis and they think, gosh, I did everything right, how did this happen? The rewards are wonderful. Starting with restoring your faith in humanity. We see people at their most fundamentally human come into the hospital. We take away all the props and costumes that make us who we are out in the world and are left with raw humanity here. The gift that we are given of the people that we love and are connected to and whose lives we're woven together with. those bonds never break. They stretch and they change, but they don't break. And just as we have to let go from this side, there are people, we're told in our faith that there are those on the other side who are welcoming with joy and singing and celebration, saying, we're so glad you're here. So being able to say those things in a gentle way, depending on the family, is, I think, part of what we're there for. It's to identify this as sacred time, but also joyful that we had the time and could share in the love of this person.
Well, 3 people there doing some very important and what can be at times emotionally draining work.